So we're going to go through these slides fairly quickly. I'll have time for questions at the end, and then after the slides that we go through, then we will try out our voting through vPoll. So for those of you who have never been to an assembly before or haven't been to one in a while, the purpose that we have of our assembly is really gathering to be transformed and connected by God's grace through kind of two things. One is our common work, which is the business of the church, and the other is worship and faith connections. And then God sends us out into the world to continue to do God's work in the world. This is our first one-day assembly. We have done a two-part assembly before, but this is our first one-day hybrid assembly. So it's not going to have as many things in it as it would usually have when it's 2 or 3 days, but we will still get done what needs to be done. Our theme for the assembly is more than enough, and our scripture passage that we've been dwelling in this year is Mark's story of the feeding of the 5,000. So at this assembly this year, we're going to approve, hopefully, a 2026-2027 budget. We have 2 officers to elect. We have a vice president and a secretary, as well as 2 ministry team leaders and synod council members. You're going to learn about ministries that are happening throughout our synod. We have some ecumenical guests that are coming and other partners that will bring greetings. And then you'll receive reports from synod leaders in the wider church. And we'll talk about some of that in more detail in a minute. Expectations for you all, expect the Holy Spirit to show up, attend all the sessions. Unlike when we have it at a hotel, we do not have room for display tables, so there's not really much place for you to go except to be in the sessions. We will be meeting in the gym through the whole thing of abiding presence, and so that's where everything will be happening, in the room where it happens. So we would appreciate if you come prepared, and if you would download or print at least the starred sections of the Bulletin of Reports and read through all of it in advance. We will be giving you an updated copy of the Bulletin of Reports next week. We have some more nominees to add in, and there's sometimes 1 or 2 reports that are stragglers. So, but you're welcome to get started now because that's on your website, and then bring back what you've learned to your congregation. So we're hopeful that perhaps out of your congregational voting members, 1 or more of you would agree, for instance, to write a newsletter article or do a temple talk about what you learned while you were at assembly. How many of you know Robert's Rules of Order? Have you ever heard of Robert's Rules of Order? Okay. Nope. So it's really designed by a guy named Robert who is trying to allow for kind of the maximum participation in large group meetings, especially when it gets around thorny topics, so that you don't have certain people dominating conversations, but you really have an equitable system to be able to ensure that all voices are heard. And so it's designed to help people speak without interruption, to hear multiple points of views, and really to stick to the topics at hand. We have some parliamentary tips for you in Robert's Rules of Order. And we have, I have what's called a parliamentarian. That's somebody that understands Robert's Rules of Order, so that when someone comes up to the microphone and tries to do something like make a motion or whatever, I can consult with the parliamentarian to say, hey, is this legitimate? And then I make rulings on it. And so I'm the chair of the assembly, and so I'm the one that has the responsibility of making sure that it runs well. Our budget this year is once again what we call a narrative budget. That is a high-level budget that categorizes our expenditures by 4 major categories plus our infrastructure needs. Those are the 4 categories that you see before you, and we've been using these same categories for the last several years. We also provide an explanation of how we fund our priorities, not only through the main part of our budget, which comes in primarily through contributions from congregations, but also through certain dedicated funds. And if you're really interested in learning, doing a deep dive into the budget and asking all the questions you want to ask, we do have a budget hearing next Tuesday night. We'll be going over all the line items, so that, and as well as the narrative budget. So if you have particular questions, it's much easier to get those answered in a smaller group setting at the budget hearing. So I encourage you to attend that. And then if you decide that you really want to propose any changes to the budget, you have to do those no later than Saturday morning at 10 a.m. There's a form on our website that will help, that you can fill out. The reason we don't give you a lot of time to do that is because it's a one-day assembly, and we're going to have to decide if we what the amendments are, and how we need to vote on them. So I encourage you to come to that budget workshop so that you're informed in case you want to make any amendments. We also have these things called resolutions and memorials. I call them the whereases and be it resolves. And they're really just an opportunity to bring kind of complicated motions to the assembly floor. They have several purposes. Sometimes they're to educate people. So for instance, some have come to the assembly hall before that are related to anti-racism or reducing green gas emissions. Sometimes it's just to give thanks to a certain group of people, or it's sometimes they come as requests for the ELCA churchwide assembly to study something or to do something. We have a ELCA churchwide assembly this summer in Phoenix. And so there's often what are called memorials. Those are the motions that go to the churchwide assembly. We don't currently have any resolutions or memorials that have been submitted. Somebody in theory could bring one to the floor of the assembly, but it would take 2/3 of you all as voting members to say yes to even considering it. Otherwise, folks have missed the deadline. And that gives everybody an opportunity to say, well, whether we think a late breaking resolution is worth talking about or not. Speaking and voting at the assembly, there will be a microphone at the assembly. And so if you have a question, if you want to speak for or against a particular motion around, say, the budget, or if you have a question, you can come to the microphone and wait to be recognized and say your name and your congregation, and then ask your question or make your point of order or motion. For those of you that are going to be participating online, we're going to ask you to use, there's a raise hand function in Zoom, or you can put your desire to speak at the microphone in the chat and wait to be recognized. And this is our first time that we've done it this way, so it might be a little bumpy, but we're going to work out the kinks. So looking forward to that. And when we do votes, they can be by voice, by show of hands, or by electronic ballot. I think because this is our first hybrid assembly, we will probably do everything by electronic ballot so that we can make sure that the people that are on Zoom are heard just the same as the people that are in the room. So that is kind of the business of the church. Before we get to worship and faith connections, are there any questions about anything I talked about so far? Budget, Robert's Rules of Order, any of that?
No.
Okay, great. So because this is just a day-long assembly, normally we would have either an opening or a closing worship. But what we're going to do is something a little bit different this year. So worship will be broken out throughout the assembly. So we will begin with an opening invocation and a song. We'll have songs kind of interspersed throughout the assembly. We're going to do a communion around our tables at lunchtime. right before lunch. And then in the afternoon, we will actually have a sermon. So it'll be a little topsy-turvy. But toward the end of the day, then we will do an affirmation of baptism and ascending. There will be prayer stations around the assembly hall, so you'll have an opportunity to get up and have tactile or different kinds of opportunities for prayer. And then we'll also be practicing generosity through our assembly offering with Cross Trails. The other thing I should mention about worship is because we're celebrating Cross Trails' 75th anniversary, we're going to sing a lot of camp songs. So it'll be nice and relaxed. And I think everyone will enjoy that. We're bringing out the guitars, so it'll be good. Cross Trails, we're raising money through our Synod Assembly offering for a new dining hall for Camp Chrysalis. If any of you have been in the dining hall of Camp Chrysalis before, you know that it needs work. And so they're planning on, if they raise enough money, tearing it down and building a whole new dining hall. We hope everyone will give generously, both congregationally and individually. And if you're not, if you don't have a check or online giving at the assembly, don't worry. We're continuing to take your offering all the way up until August 31st, 2025. But you can still give directly to Cross Trails after that. Our ELCA representative is Daniel Kirschbaum. He's the Senior Director for Young Adult Communities, and we asked for him to come because of our connection with camping ministry and outdoor ministries. So he's going to give us a report from the ELCA, and he will also be our preacher at the afternoon part of the worship in the assembly. A few logistics. There is a reception at the Hilton Garden Inn, which is by the airport, on Friday night for those that are interested. Hopefully, if you were interested, you checked the box in your registration that said either yes or maybe, and we'll look forward to hosting you then. Saturday morning, we're getting started bright and early so that we can hopefully get you out of there early. It shows that we finish at 5 o'clock. I don't foresee us going that long unless there are a whole bunch of surprises. And normally we might finish around 3:30. But we like to say 5 so that you can be happily dismissed early rather than depressed when we keep you late. So our first session will have part of the opening worship. We do what's called a State of the Synod that talks about kind of where we are as the Synod this past year and going forward. And then we'll have our first ballots for the vice president, the secretary, and the 2 ministry team chairs. That's the Holy Experiments team and the leadership team. There's other things that are going on in there, but those are the major things. And then we're going to take a break at 10:30. There'll be snacks, always a good thing, right? Snacks throughout the day. 11 o'clock, we'll come back. We'll have the budget presentation so that normally we would present the budget in the morning and then we'll vote on it in the afternoon. We'll hear from the ELCA and then we'll have a Holy Communion before lunch. Lunch will be for about an hour and that'll all be happening in the gymnasium. So you'll be eating there as well, but you're certainly welcome to, if it's a lovely day, to take your food outside if you want to get some sunshine for an hour. And then we're going to come back at 1:15 for the Cross Trails Corporation meeting. So all of you who are voting members of the assembly are also voting members of Cross Trails Corporation. So you'll come back to hear about the amazing work that Cross Trails is doing. You'll hear more about the new dining hall. And then I think there's a couple of small things that you're voting on. And then, oops, that should be session 3, not plenary 4. I apologize. You come back for the last session, which is basically until the end. We'll do some worship with a sermon with Daniel Kirschbaum. We will have our balloting for our Synod Council positions. We're going to vote on the proposed budget, have any runoff elections, any other unfinished business. And then we'll install our newly elected leaders. We'll have an affirmation of baptism as our closing, and then we adjourn no later than 5 o'clock, but hopefully earlier. The Senate Assembly webpage that you're going to need throughout the assembly and prior to the assembly as well has all of the reports and presentations. It has the nominee information. It has any forms that you need. So if somebody makes a nomination from the floor, the nominee needs to fill out a form. If there are any resolutions that anyone wants to make or budget amendments, those are all through our website. And they're all online. And then also recordings of the videos that we're going to be sharing during assembly. You'll be able to find those there, as well as recordings of this orientation, as well as the budget hearing, in case you didn't get a chance to go to that. Other details, we will have live translation in Spanish. We will have a playground. We will have a playground for the kiddos. And we will be doing Zoom for all of our remote voting members. And next week will be an updated bulletin of reports. Any other questions before we get to the voting? I know that was quick, but it's a pretty straightforward assembly, I think, I hope.
I'm good.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, no questions.